Serious, Redditors who killed someone, what happened?
A guy attacked me at 3 a.m. while I was walking to work. Literally barreled out of the woods and tackled me onto concrete with his belt undone. He broke 3 of my ribs. I tried to choke him long enough to render him unconscious. And I did. He never woke up. It still bothers me. I was arrested and questioned in the hospital. Uncuffed the following morning after the police obtained security camera footage. I've been asked before how I managed to hold the choke long enough to kill him. I don't know. I may have crushed his windpipe. I have no concept of how long the choke, or even the whole situation, lasted.
I was working as a cleaner at an aged care resident with severe dementia, was sleeping. I decided to mop the floor in her room while she was asleep. Resident woke up and decided to get out of bed without assistance. Resident slipped on wet floor. Carers found her unconscious and called ambulance. Resident died at the scene. Nothing came of it as resident had no living relatives. I got told it was the carer's fault for not keeping a close eye on resident, but I blame myself. I still think about this late at night.
2 men broke into my house late at night. I shot them. 1 died.
I killed my sister's unborn baby. We were teenagers and playing softball. I didn't know she was pregnant, and I hit a line drive she pitched to me. It hit her right in the abdomen. A childhood friend suffered liver failure, and was on a breathing machine. When she breathed her last, her father could not bring himself to turn on the breathing apparatus. So, I did. And then the men from the funeral home came. They were very polite, and we gave them all the info they needed for them to do their job. Her stepmother stayed at the house, while I took her dad out for ice cream, just to be away from the scene. It was a warm summer night, and we walked and talked and had ice cream at the local Sweet Frog. You may think that might not qualify, but there is a moment of finality when you switch off a friend's oxygen machine. About 6 months after, I was visiting a friend, recounting the story, and suddenly the dam burst and I cried for hours. Home invasion. Physical altercation. I knocked him out, got my gun, shot once, he died. Police called it castle doctrine. I have no guilt. He made me kill him in front of my 7-year-old son. Friend of mine was outside of a bar waiting for a ride home. It wasn't that late at night and he texted me. I drove about 10 minutes to go get him. When I arrived, there were 3 other guys surrounding him, obviously wanting trouble. I ran and tackled one of the guys to the floor. I was completely focused on this guy because he was literally face to face with my friend. We start hitting each other and a bystander helped with the other 2 men. I managed to stumble back on my feet and kick the guy in the face. He hit his head against the wall of the building and I knew it wasn't a good sound. With my adrenaline rushing, I looked over and the other 2 men were running away. I was the one to call the cops and report everything. I can only imagine how that sound of his skull cracking stays in your head.
My husband and I only had 1 car at the time and I had to ride with him to work one morning around 4 a.m. so I could drive back home. It was raining and the road wasn't lit. We were just chatting with one another and I was reaching for the CD album for some tunes. I looked up for a moment and thought I saw what looked like a crumpled up blanket or trash bag or something in the road, but I couldn't make it out at all. My husband was driving and couldn't see it at all. Neither of us got to see for sure what it was until the headlights got close enough, and by then it was too late to react. It was a man, curled up in a ball in the middle of the road, dressed completely in black clothing. I remember crying out just a half second before we struck him and went over him. It hasn't even dawned on my husband what had just happened, and I was screaming and crying in horror. My husband was also very distraught and was shaking. I told him he has to call 911 and get help, so he did. He got out of the car and went over to check on the man and see if he was responsive at all. Nothing. The ambulance and cops came. They asked us a bunch of questions and the whole routine. The news crews came out to film everything. That man died on the way to the hospital. This haunted me for over a year after it happened. A month or so later we found out that the man had abandoned his truck at a nearby gas station and walked away. He wasn't from the area either. We learned that two of his friends came down here to talk to him and tried to get him to go back home with them and get back into rehab, but he had refused and said he wasn't coming back. There was a lot of alcohol and meth in his system. I don't know what that does to a person when those things are mixed, but somehow this guy found his way into the middle of a poorly lit city street and curled himself up. I'll never know why he was there. I'm still afraid of driving on rainy nights. I don't think I slept well at all for a while afterwards. I have to travel that same road to work, and now I always think about it when I pass that spot on the road.
I've had to twice. I worked at a gas station convenience store that my family owned in a state with extremely relaxed gun laws, so I always carry a gun. 2 separate times a man has tried to rob the store, once at knife point, dumb as hell, and once with a gun, and 2 times a man has entered the store alive and left dead. I think they assumed I'd just hand the money over since most convenience store employees don't get paid enough to care, but like I said, it was the family business, so I cared a lot. I knew we had cameras in the store, so it was an extremely easy decision, as the police had concrete evidence I was defending myself in the store, so there was no risk of prison. Which is the scariest part of self-defense MO. Haven't lost a second of sleep over the bastards, and would do it again in a heartbeat.